I never imagined that the most successful day of my professional life would also become the beginning of my undoing. You spend years working your way up, proving your worth in meetings where your voice barely registers, in brainstorming sessions where your ideas are adopted but never credited, and in late nights filled with coffee-stained pitch, decks that only your name ever really bled into. You fight for a seat at the table, and when you finally get one, you learn it's not about the seat. It's about how fast they can pull it from under you the moment you stand out too much. My name is Tessa Moore, and I was the lead strategist behind a $130 million global campaign that shattered every industry record, dominated headlines, and transformed an aging brand into a household name overnight. We weren't just trending, we were leading the conversation in 72 countries simultaneously. And while my campaign was still being dissected in Harvard case studies, HR was sliding a letter across my desk with a 63% salary reduction. No warning, no explanation, just cold ink on warm success. It started months earlier. Our company, Nordwell International, was an old money corporate entity, clawing for relevance in a world sprinting toward innovation. Their product line, home appliances, was slowly dying. Millennials and Gen Z didn't want the things their parents loved. They wanted sustainability, minimalism, and purpose. Nordwell had none of that. What it had was money, lots of it. And they needed a miracle. Enter me. I had pitched a campaign so outrageous that most execs didn't even bother reading past the headline slide. Except one, Elijah Carr, our interim chief marketing officer, a slick talker who liked to pretend he discovered talent when he was really just betting on anyone desperate enough to do 3 jobs under one title. He gave me a reluctant green light. If you fail, I'll say I told them not to let you run with it. He laughed. I forced a smile. I knew what this was. A trap disguised as an opportunity. But I didn't fail. I called it home. Reimagined. A campaign not about products, but about moments. I partnered with micro-influencers in 42 cities. I commissioned a short film from an Oscar-nominated director and dropped it as if it were a blockbuster trailer. I worked with AI labs to customize live product demos per user behavior. And then I pulled the most insane move of all. I convinced the company to let us host a virtual art exhibit where every appliance became part of a living installation, streamed in real time. Within 48 hours of launch, our name was in Fast Company, TechCrunch, Vogue, and Forbes, all at once. Sales didn't just spike, they exploded. The supply chain collapsed under the demand. TikTok was flooded with reviews, unboxings, behind-the-scenes edits. People were remaking our short film with their families. It was beyond viral. It was cultural. My name was everywhere, except inside the building. Elijah did every press interview. The CEO, Monroe Kane, released an internal memo praising bold leadership at the top for guiding the company into a new era. I waited for my acknowledgement, a bonus, a raise, a title bump, hell, even a thank you email. But all I got was a calendar. Invite, HR meeting, 2 p.m., room 304. I walked in smiling. Maybe they were finally going to do the right thing. Maybe this was it, the recognition moment every underdog dreams of. But when I sat down, all I saw were 2 HR reps I barely knew and a manila folder with my name on it. We're restructuring, they said. Effective next quarter, your compensation will be adjusted to reflect company-wide cost realignments. I blinked. I don't understand. My campaign just brought in. We're aware, one of them interrupted. Then why would my pay? This isn't performance-based. It's a structural decision. That's when it hit me. I was being punished, not for failing, but for succeeding without permission. You see, Elijah couldn't control the narrative anymore. I'd become too visible, too loud, too essential, and men like him didn't like to share oxygen. I had gone from being invisible to being inconvenient. I walked out of that room numb. They thought they could bury me in shame. They didn't know I had the receipts. For weeks, I documented everything. Email threads, Slack messages, voice memos. Elijah had cut corners, lied to vendors, and taken credit for campaign elements he hadn't even seen until after launch. And I had proof. He'd sent me a message late one night. Can you just fix it and not make a thing about it? I'll owe you one. He owed me all right. I contacted a friend of mine, Noelle. She worked in corporate investigations and knew exactly what to look for. Together, we drafted a report that would make the board of directors choke on their dividends. I didn't leak it, not yet. I scheduled a private meeting with the board chairwoman. I walked in and slid a thumb drive across the table. Before you read this, I said, I want to remind you that your stock hit a 5-year high this quarter, and that every major ROI indicator traced back to the campaign I designed, managed, and delivered. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. What's on this? Your CMO's lies, and a detailed summary of how he tried to erase the person who saved this company. She didn't say a word, but 3 days later, Elijah Carr was resigning to pursue other opportunities. They offered me his job. I said no, not because I wasn't qualified, but because by then, I had started getting calls from agencies, brands, even studios. I had been the invisible architect too long. Now they wanted to hear my voice. I left Nordwell the following week, but before I walked out, I wrote one final internal memo, not to shame anyone, just the truth. I was handed a pay cut the day my work broke the internet, not because of policy. Fear of what happens when someone expected to stay. Quiet finally speaks loud enough to be heard. You should all ask yourselves, who else are you trying to silence? It went viral internally. Someone leaked it. Within a day, it was all over LinkedIn and Twitter. The woman who went viral and got punished for it. Think pieces flooded in. Norwell's stock took a hit. But I was fine. I launched my own brand consultancy 6 weeks later. The first client, a Fortune 50 company. Their campaign did $220 million in the first 3 months. My face on every ad. My name on every byline. Sometimes you don't need revenge. Sometimes all you need is for people to see you clearly. Because once they do, they can't ever pretend again. So the next time someone slides a pay cut letter across the table, ask them one question. If I'm not worth the salary, why is the whole world watching my work? Because when your success becomes too loud to ignore, the only thing left for them to do is either join you or step aside before they're exposed.